we go. So we're up to IP012 or IP12, or if you believe the insert, just 12. It says so at the bottom. So Bruce,
Yep.
here we are, talking about Neef and the release 23, and we got 3 of the 5 members, 4 or 5.
Yep,
I've
5.
read different things where there was a 4-piece version of the band, a 5-piece version of the band. Where did this?
So many versions.
Where did it start? Where does Neef start?
Where to begin?
Yeah, where? How did this come together?
Well, the person who's missing, or one of the people who's missing, is Brent Wilcox, who he and I lived at Dykstra as freshmen, and that would have been 1974 or 75, UCLA. And we met there, and then a year later, I started working at the Treehouse, and I met Josh and Ed at that Treehouse is the cafeteria, and we worked in the dish room. So and then somewhere along, we just started hanging out, and oh, I know what it was. It was No New York. No New York came out. Of course, we were all very avid music listeners, but we were spectators. And No New York came out, and we listened to it, and we loved it, and we thought we could do that. Of course, we underestimated how good those guys were. But so we jumped in and started jamming. And I think we met Bruce at, I'm sure it was taking Chris Burden classes, or at least it was at Dixon Art Center.
Yeah.
At UCLA. And I think somehow we were illegally there using the studios to jam. You weren't supposed to do that, but we did it anyway. Isn't that right, Bruce? Wasn't that the rules?
Yeah, I met you and Brent in Chris Burden's first New Forms and Concepts class.
Yeah.
And of course, I was immediately drawn to you because you were wearing an Ultravox T-shirt, and I thought, okay, these are my guys.
I want to be a machine. I love that song. Yeah.
I know all this already because I have Bruce's book, but go on, sorry.
And yeah, as I recall, you guys you did a gig at the Kirchhoff Coffee House.
Oh yeah.
That's
the urinals, yeah.
I came along to see that, and I had recently bought a guitar, and of course, No New York was my inspiration for buying a guitar as well.
Yeah. Oh, great.
And I realized that I was about at the same level of playing ability as you guys, so I wasn't ashamed to actually say, "Hey, can I bring my guitar the next time you guys get together?"
Yeah,
and that was how it became a 5-piece for a period of time.
So I did fail to introduce everybody. So Greg, we have 3 of the 5 members today, and those 3 are Tim Quinn. Thank you, Tim, and Josh Adelson.
Adelson, yeah.
Bruce. And then as Tim mentioned, Ed Toomey couldn't make it. I believe he's in a snowstorm or buried in an igloo somewhere. Perhaps.
Yeah.
And then Brent Wilcox is not here. So did you guys actually rehearse and sit down and try to write songs? Did people?
Oh, hours and hours of rehearsal. Yeah. I don't know that we tried to write any songs.
Practicing. Well, we were improvisers from the outset, and we did have a couple of riffs that we brought back in, and we gave names, but they were never formally songs. But we were improvisers. Yeah.
Can we clear up one thing right now that dates back to the Kirchhoff performance? Because this is important to me. The song's official title was Heat Death of the Universe, but I announced it as Heat Death and the Universe, and that is the title by which I feel it should be known forevermore. Okay, that's my contribution to this chat. I'm done.
I think on Crust we had it both ways, didn't we?
Probably.
On our CD we had
I misstated the title. So if there's any confusion, it's because I did it.
That's how things happen.
You get all the credit.
I take all the blame on that one.
Where did this band name of Neef come from?
We used to sit around the table and make. Brent and I lived together, and we used to sit around the coffee table and make stuff. And we made this little machine. It was a motor, and we attached a bent paper clip to the shaft, and it flopped around on the table, and we thought it kind of looked lifelike. So we called this lifelike thing Neef. We called it Neef. And then when we decided to form a band, we just adopted the name.
Wow.
Oh, that's the true story.
Did you ever use the device as maybe a sound generator?
I think maybe Brent used it to
Incorporated?
whack guitar strings. I think he did, because he did a lot of that kind of thing, as you probably remember. And later on performed solo as a guitar player.
Brent or the Neef machine?
Ah, that's funny. Brent did. Brent performed solo guitar, yeah, long after Neef.
So you guys mentioned the UCLA Coffee House, and that's actually John Tally Jones mentions that in this insert. So what was the reasoning for putting this insert or this quote in? Bruce, was this you?
Yeah, when I did the reissue of the first 7-inch in 1984, I think it was. I just thought there should be some sort of written context for what this was that people were getting. And so I asked John Tally Jones to write something. And he at the time he was collaborating with a few other people, and they did a journal called 1, 2, 3, 4. That was I don't know, there were 3 or 4 issues of it, but it was like very serious, like academic writing about independent music. And so I just thought, well, he'd be a perfect person to ask to write something. And because he knew Neef, and he was kind of there when I first connected with the Neef guys. So
Okay.
And Brent and I were at the very first urinal performance in the Dykstra bathroom in front of the urinals.
nice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And they played the Jetsons and a few other. I think they played Ack Ack.
So Bruce, you mentioned that this was a reissue, right? So the original version came out.
The original version came out in 1979. And I think it was, the 5 of us had been recording, I guess you could call them rehearsals. We'd get together, make music, and it was all pretty much improvised, as Tim said, in the Dixon art studios on the weekend. And Brent worked for the audiovisual service, so he brought a tape recorder and microphones, and he recorded everything. And then, as I recall, during the week, we'd get together at his apartment, and he'd already edited out the best parts, and we'd listen to them and make up titles for what we did.
Yeah.
And so he started putting together a tape, and there was the cassette tape that was sold in the modern art vending machine, Glenn Rubseman's modern art vending machine on campus. And I don't know, there was maybe 20 copies of that. And then, as I recall, then the Urinals, had put out their own single. And so we thought, well, we should put out a single too. And so we got together and decided which songs to go on it. And, none of us had any money. So I think we all put in $40, and
Yeah.
we had $200, and it was like, okay, press as many records as you can for this $200. And we got 169, as I recall.
Wow.
And then I don't remember who made the covers, Brent or you, Tim, or
It was kind of a collaboration.
Collaboration. Yeah.
Things got tossed around back and forth between all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when 5 years later, I had kind of gotten set up in the Nate Starkman building and got my letterpress, and I still really felt like what we had created was so unique and really special, and that was why I decided to do a new version of it. So that was what came out in 1984.
So now it's no longer unique. Great job, Bruce.
So the original pressing, there's a notation about the Centipede Foundation. What was that? Do you guys know what that refers to? So
It
what
was
is-
this sort of fictitious organization that we claimed to be part of.
okay.
It was just a kind of some sort of smokescreen, I guess.
That
There
sounds
was
like
a Centipede Foundation Journal, which was sent. There was Centipede North, which was up in the Bay Area with Tim's friend Everett Schock and his cadre of independent.
And we did do a
groups.
journal, yeah.
Yeah, and Ed was very, very heavily involved in the journal, as I recall. And
Yeah, editor Ed edited it.
to everybody.
Was
Editor Ed
I
edited it.
contributed nothing to any of this. I was a hanger on at all times.
Oh,
So was it published or distributed like
it's very small distribution, probably 25 copies.
around campus or?
down to be
We had like
pressed.
a mailing list.
Okay.
It was definitely something we kept separate from school
Wow.
on purpose, kind of.
It reminds me of something maybe like the Residents would do something.
Yeah,
like-
I think we were very influenced by them.
So Josh, what
Definitely.
was your input into the projects? Were
I smoked a lot of dope. And
Yeah.
whatever came into my head came out of my mouth or my fingers.
Josh is the one true musician among us,
Not true.
so he always stood out.
I would try occasionally. My major contribution to Neef was Miss Lazy Bones, which was a Radio Shack 555 timer-based digital sequencer built into a pink shoebox I borrowed from my mother. I
wow.
never returned the shoebox because somebody borrowed Miss Lazy Bones and never give it back to me. Film school, they do things like that in film school. But anyway, that was I put my heart and soul into this little digital sequencer. I think it got used on 2 or 3 occasions. I was in love with it. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, absolutely. So I will note that at the time, smoking a lot of dope was illegal, unlike today. So
Yes.
Correct. We were pioneers.
Yeah.
quite the rebel.
I do
I don't know.
recall there being a drum set involved there somewhere.
Yeah.
I had borrowed my childhood friend, even though in college, I started when I was 16, so I was basically still a child. I borrowed his drum kit and basically destroyed it over the course of the next 4 or 5 years. And eventually I gave it back to him. I forgot I even had it. He didn't care. And I felt guilty about it for at least 3 decades. And then finally, I sent him an electronic drum kit that I saw on Amazon that looked really interesting and snazzy. So I made up for it. But yeah, I just completely trashed his Sears catalog drum kit over the years.
I have one more question, and then I'm going to give it to Greg. There's a little tiny insert inside of this release, and it says Neef line in a 1 minute. It says a 1 minute Neef line, and I tried calling this number, and it's not you guys, by the way. So, what was the Neef line at that point?
That was all Brent too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Brent.
Yeah.
Brent ran that.
He paid
He
for
ran
it.
it for quite a while after the demise of Neef too. It was just a short clip. You could call up and hear 1 minute of Neef, and he would
I
change
can
it
do
every
for you
once in
right
a
now
while.
from memory. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 and then it'd be over. You'd hang
Yeah.
up.
So would
Yeah,
it?
he basically had a dedicated answering machine on that line.
Yeah, there you go.
So
Nothing digital, nothing fancy.
would he change it periodically, or
Yeah.
so
It's a
answering
shame it's no
machine?
longer in existence. We should really revive that. That would be something. Get at least 4 calls a decade, I would think. I would call every day.
So if it was an answering machine, could people leave messages? Do you guys recall, or
I don't.
it was just a one way?
Yeah.
Outgoing.
Yeah, I don't think it had I don't think it had an answering part of
He's
it.
probably just using the announce feature, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could imagine some of the messages that you guys might have received had it been received. Okay, Greg, I know there was a lot of questions that you had. So.
Well, a few questions. Pardon me. Well, how many other gigs did you guys do? How often did you play live?
I can think of 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's counting Kirkhoff.
Are you
Wait.
counting also Science of Love Band too? Probably.
No. I mean, just because I can think of 7 doesn't mean there were that many.
Oh.
That's how my brain works. 1 or 2 of them just seem like they happened more than once. Like the one we did, I know we played in the Anti Club, right?
Yeah, that's right. That was excruciating.
That was. I still have.
Why was it excruciating?
Fond memories of the Anti.
I don't think we just didn't take off that night. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't. And the audience was very hostile. So
That's what I liked about it.
yeah.
It was an art.
But we
it was
played
art
at Roger Wong's Museum of, what was it called, Bruce? The Museum of Modern Art? You
Yeah,
remember?
yeah, it was that little storefront, and
Yeah.
was it Beverly in Vermont or something like that?
I
Yeah.
think that was the 4-piece group's peak.
Yeah, that was.
It was.
Yeah, I don't think the only thing I remember when I was playing with you, I know we did a performance outside the cafeteria at UCLA in the North Campus thing, and it was on video. It was, I think John Tally Jones videotaped it. It was like on live UCLA TV or something like that.
I totally forgotten about that.
Vaguely familiar, an outdoor thing. I don't remember it well.
I would have forgotten about it completely if I hadn't found a flyer for it going through boxes.
Wow.
Save that.
I thought you were going to say a tape of it.
No,
I have
maybe
a
Don
recording
still
that
has
taped over.
something. I don't know.
So was there a cadre of like-minded bands that you were playing with, or like or was it more random when you would play out?
Always opt for random. I think you can't go wrong just saying random.
Can't go wrong with random.
Well, I think one of those shows that you did at the Museum of Art was with like this experimental group that John Tally Jones had. What was it called? Yeah, I'm spacing on it, but I mean, I have a flyer for it too. I just don't remember the name, but they had
ABC something.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I was thinking that it might have, or I was going to ask if you ever did anything with any of like Brad Lehner's projects. Back when he was a little whippersnapper, he was doing seemed like a different project every week.
Noise Kid.
You know, I think Neef was kind of early, and I think like Bruce went on and created like 5 or 6 other groups and created this whole scene, you know, around Dixon. And we were very insular and kind of just stayed to ourselves and disappeared. But Bruce went on and did all this, you know, created all these amazing bands. Or was it involved with?
I do want to address Greg's question more fully. We definitely played on KPFK.
That's right.
That's all that radio program. We definitely went on public television. I don't know what.
Peter Ivers.
Where was it?
Yeah.
Peter Ivers' show. Although I don't know if he ever played it actually, but he recorded it.
That counts.
Yeah.
On KPFK, was that Andrea Enthal's show? The 12 o'clock rocker was Richard.
It was Richard Meltzer. Yeah, it was Richard Meltzer. And he let us play for like 3 hours. It was pretty fun.
Great.
Yeah, those were great shows. Great programs, I should say. Going back then, because it's kind of popped in my head because I hadn't listened to any of your stuff in a long time. It's like, God, I'm sure I was listening to this on KPFK. It's just like some little switch in the brain. So that's somewhat vindicated that I didn't hallucinate the whole thing.
Yeah.
No, that was real. Also at UCLA, we came in and did something for, what was it? Shirley Clark's class. She had a create television class, and I was in like a suit or something on that. I don't remember what. We were all stoned, I'm sure. But I had the 2-inch tape of that for years, and it got taped over by some other UCLA projects or something. Very sad. So I hope that addressed your question about performing.
That did.
Okay,
I
good.
just
It did.
remembered the name of that experimental group that John Telly Jones had, Arrow Book Club. And
That's right.
You were
It
close,
was
Tim.
ABC. That's
Yeah,
funny.
that
Yeah.
was pretty close.
so
Arrow Book Club.
I don't remember who was in that. It was like one of the people from The Last was like Vitas Matari in that. I can't remember.
I can't either.
But yeah, you guys did a show with them.
I think Kevin was, at least Kevin
Oh
Barrett.
yeah, that could be.
Yeah.
Another Treehouse connection.
Yeah, that's funny.
He didn't count. He was a busboy. That's no cachet. Sorry, Kevin.
So you guys had mentioned earlier about the titles. Bruce, I think you said that you were going through some of those rehearsal tapes and you just attached some titles to it. Even the single itself, or EP, has the two titles, Wanda on one side and Buddy on the other side. And then also I Face It, the Sounds Tear at Me for Wanda. Who came up with these, and is there any significance to it, or was it influenced by some of Josh's little baggie? Perhaps.
Yeah.
I had that to me was always Brent. I'm sure Tim had a big hand in Wanda and Buddy as well, but to me that just screams Brent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it makes me think of Ruth is Stranger Than Richard. I think he called that side Richard and side Ruth. And I think we might have been borrowing from there. But the other thing is,
what was that from, Tim?
I think we were influenced by Robert Wyatt and Ruth is Stranger Than Richard, and he called the sides Richard and Ruth.
Okay.
So I think that's where, it wasn't intentional reference, but I think that's where it was coming from.
Just
We were obviously, we loved obscurity and we loved obscure references, and we were very much about like going over everybody's heads, But the other thing is lines from something Brent and I wrote called The Ridiculous Manifesto. I Face It, the Sounds Tear at Me. 25 lines, and every line is an anagram for the United States of America.
Oh,
So that's what that is.
That was so great. I was a big fan.
Yeah. Ideas that seem unfit to race. Is that the other side? That's the first two lines.
The tide causes it, a torn frame or fame.
Yeah, that's another one. The tide causes it, a torn fame.
Wow.
So there were 25 of them, and I've looked for copies recently. I don't even have a copy anymore. So
I hate stories like that.
What was the manifesto called again?
The Ridiculous Manifesto. See,
So
we were creating all of this bullshit around us. It was kind of a game we played.
I love that.
Don't forget the origin of 23. Why is it 23?
That's right.
Yeah.
Synchronicity number.
Yeah. Where did that
I understood it to be, but who knows? That's been my favorite number for years. Before that came out, and then it came out, and I was like, oh my God.
So Tim, any insight into the number 23 and why?
That comes from Robert Anton Wilson's books. What are they called? Josh, you'll know.
Illuminatus trilogy?
Yeah. So it's I don't know, maybe you could explain it better than me, Josh.
I really can't. I just remember that 23 somehow is the number of synchronicity. And
yeah. I mean, you see it every place. No, it's the idea that once an idea is put in your mind, that you're going to confirm it by seeing it everywhere you look. So 23 is a special number, and then you're told it's a special number, and then every place you see it, it takes on this extra significance. So we were just trying to add to that mystery. That's all it was. Does that make sense?
Can you clip this part out so no one knows that? I don't want this to be.
It's a great book if you never read it. It's actually 3 books, but short.
There's a lot of the stuff by Roz just covers a lot of the same material. But if you haven't read the Illuminatus trilogy, take acid tonight and get started.
Yeah.
Will do.
It sounds like we got homework tonight, Greg.
Yeah, really.
I can use some of the modern designer drugs. You don't have to stick to my old hat nonsense.
I don't know if we have any tabs left, Greg, or do we use that at our last rehearsal? So. Okay.
I'm sure I can scrape something up.
So
Ugh.
I love this, Tim, that you guys were creating this mystery around the band, and I think that's just it's so fantastic. I love that about it. So what about the titles for the songs? Are they just random thoughts?
What are they?
Rain dance, lunchtime, staff
Oh, yeah.
meeting, action items.
Oh, staff meeting action items. That's a thumper.
Yeah.
So that one, that's
power ballad.
That's one of my favorite pieces that we did. And I had bought this super cheap guitar. And I mean, it was like a Chinese guitar or something. And we were playing around with like loosening all the strings on it. And it had a whammy bar on it. And we turned everything up to 10 on this little tiny amp with all the, the effects and everything. And Josh came over and started playing his drumsticks on the strings. We had it laying flat on the table.
Wow.
And I was kind of working the whammy bar, and Josh was playing the strings, and somebody else was working the amplifier. And it's an amazing piece. It really.
God, it's amazing how that comes back with your description. It all comes back.
I remember the tune. I didn't remember the creation. I can hear it, but I don't recall. Yeah, now that you bring it up, sure, I do remember. And there were other times that strings got played with drumsticks, frequently bass strings.
Yeah,
Tim wasn't good with his bass.
But I remember that title. I think I had a evening job at the Hughes helicopter computer room, and I just remember like. I think I got a newsletter and it said staff meeting action items on it. It was a whole list of things that they were going to do at the staff. I thought, oh, perfect title for that piece, So yeah, we would just kind of get inspired, see, okay, what does this piece make us think of? And Rain Dance was the one where Brent reads the weather report, and that came out of a performance that he did for Chris Burden's New Forms and Concepts class.
Wow.
Where he took a little portable PA system, and he went out and sat in parking garage number 3 north of the Dixon art building. And he was like hidden, so you couldn't really see him, but he just sat there, and through this portable PA system, he started reading the weather report. And you see people walking to their classes, and they'd be like, where is this weather report coming from, And so we did a piece where he did that, and Rain Dance, of course. And lunchtime, that was
recycled material. I had no idea. I wasn't in on Chris Burton's whole thing, so
yeah.
Yeah, if he was still here today, I'd chide him for that.
But the lunchtime, that Brent had this little tiny plastic keyboard that he had done some adaptation on. He'd done some electronics, so
capacitors.
So he could bend notes, and that was like, and it just sounded like, okay, hey, it's the lunch horn, Let's eat. So.
Amazing.
I'm sure that tone, everybody who's listened to any Neef remembers. Yeah, miss it.
So there's 2 more titles: Client in Trouble and Not Even Enough Food. Do either one of those ring a bell?
Self-explanatory, but I'm not.
Client in Trouble and Not Enough Food.
Well, that's Client in Trouble has Ed's hoots in it, so I think
that's the trouble.
Yeah, I don't remember who came up with that title, but and I think
none of them.
I think not even enough food was me asking the other guys, what does Neef mean? And I think Ed said not even enough food, and so that became a song title. That's how I remember it anyway. So
yeah,
that's good. Nobody's going to contradict you on any of this, I'm pretty sure. Maybe Tim will. I won't. I have nothing to contradict.
Well, then my last question for you guys would be, so when did the project come to an end, or did it officially come to an end, or was there a big brawl, or did
I think it was when I hit puberty.
I was gonna say, did it involve a woman?
Good question. No, I don't think so.
So
No.
so did basically it just fizzle out, or you guys graduated and went on?
Or is it possible that Neef never really ends? It's eternal and cyclical.
That's it. That's good. I like that.
Or did it actually ever exist at all?
Fair questions.
Waking
So
up
trying
from
to
the
come up
dream.
with an acronym that uses eternal now inside Neef.
So it sounds like a
Evolutionary failures.
I think we just lost confidence in it. You know, it was kind of a, how would you say it, Josh? It was like about failure. You know, it was like always walking the edge of failure, and sometimes you just lose confidence in that idea. And I think we just lost confidence in it.
I still don't have any confidence in it.
Yeah.
After all these years, I haven't regained any. But no, I mean, you know, time marches on. I got kicked out of UCLA, and my cousin Jerry, who Tim will remember as our mutual employer for Sun
Yeah.
Corporation,
When he
hired me, and I got the use of this warehouse. And so late stage Neef was doing tons and tons of jam sessions on the weekends in the AgFax warehouse. But then I got back into school and got out of Jerry's employ. Jerry died. You know, things happen. You know, just Neef wasn't forefront anymore. Maybe we did graduate. I don't remember. I graduated.
I got married.
Oh, that's right. We don't talk about that. I caught the garter at the wedding. And it was, in fact, the next one of us to get married. Tim's brother almost caught it, but I stuck my hand in front of him. That has nothing to do with the dance.
Well, I love this EP, and I'm glad that you guys did it, Bruce. I'm glad that you reissued it.
Yes, Bruce.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce.
Thank
You
you.
actually changed the cover work, Bruce, when you released this versus the original. It's got a similar vibe to it, but it's different.
Yeah, I decided because by that time I had gotten into the letterpress, and I thought, well, I need to do something that's you know, I'll reinterpret this cover for the letterpress.
Yeah.
So and I'm very, very proud of it. I think it's one of my favorite covers that I've ever done. And
I was gonna say, yeah.
those
Wow,
were,
It's beautiful.
and as
It
I
is great.
mentioned in the Savage Impressions book, those were 2 blocks of wood that I took a hatchet to outside in the alley behind the Nate Starkman print shop.
Huh.
And then put them on the press and printed from them.
Were they named Tim and Brent?
Yeah.
No, they were not.
All right, just checking.
So
Wanda and Buddy, no.
The original was made with a rubber stamp. You don't have a copy of that, but yeah.
Bruce, was this the first release to show the Nate Starkman building?
Yes. So actually this and the Savage Republic 7-inch of Tragic Figure were the first 2 releases that were done after I moved into the Nate Starkman building. So yes. And those 2 pretty much came out together. When I first moved into the Nate Starkman building, Michael Shepard was one of my roommates, and he was starting the Iridescence label. And so it was through his connection with a pressing plant in Hollywood that I got to do the pressing. So he basically paid for the pressing, and I created the covers, and you know.
Yeah, that was one
I
of
gave my 5 copies away to unappreciative people, and I want them back.
Yeah.
Got 'em.
It's not easy to find this EP. There's so Bruce, it was a release of 1,000 copies. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did 1,000, which took a while to sell, but they did finally sell out years later. And yeah, so they're all out in the world. They're out in the wild.
Yeah, there's copies to be found, but they're not super easy to find. But
Well worth the hunt.
yeah, absolutely well worth the
You know that long before the reissue, I signed over in perpetuity, all my proceeds from Neef go to Brent, but now I suppose it's a state. So I hope that that's been adequately audited and taken care of, because I'm not paying any attention to that.
There was this is out of out of sequence now, but it's something that had popped in my mind, which I wanted to ask you. I should have asked earlier. Was did you guys have any connection or collaboration with any of the LA Free Music Society people? Because there seems like kind of a commonality in terms of the aesthetic and the improvisational nature of the stuff. Just was thinking about it. And
We
if there
were
is a
on
need-
one of the we were on one of the samplers.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
that makes sense. If there, you guys should do a reunion and do something with some of those guys.
Yeah,
That would be a good trick.
I'd love to do that. I love what Rick Potts does. Yeah, and Joseph Hammer. Great guys.
Yeah, a while back I saw big show at Hauser and Worth. This was, I don't know, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, where it was a Potts guys and Tom Reshion and the whole 9 yards, Paul McCarthy, all these people. Just it was a big long improvisational sound fest. Tons of fun. You guys would have been right at home.
Yeah.
Would have been
Special
perfect.
guest stars.
Yes, that would have been perfect. All right, we have a couple minutes left. I had one last question. I think I heard you guys mention that there might be a reissue of a piece with the urinals, maybe? Is that right? Did I hear that correctly?
It was something the 4-piece Neef did. We did a collaboration with the Urinals label, which was called Happy Squid, and our label was called Centipede Foundation. So we called it the Invertebrate Alliance. So it's called the Invertebrate Alliance Sampler, and it's being now we want details I don't remember. It's being re-released by a third party. They asked John if they could re-release it, and they're printing like 250 copies, and yeah, it's coming out soon. They just sent us a test pressing to listen to, and I held it up to my ear, and it sounded pretty good.
Who is this us? I don't, John and I don't know each other at all. We've never spoken
You don't know
to each other for more than 3 seconds. I heard about this through you, and I have no idea what's happening.
I've just been trying to cooperate with it because
You want it to happen.
I want, I don't want to get in John's way.
No,
The urinals are so great.
no.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So side 1 is a sampler. It's like 5 or 6 different groups actually, and then we're all side 2.
Nice. So something to look forward to there.
And it's called Atrophy of the. Our site is called Atrophy of the Sporting Spirit, and there isn't a story that goes. There is not a story that goes with that one, I'm afraid.
And that's mentioned on the insert, but our Zoom session is going to end. And we wanted to thank you guys for coming on. Sorry that
Thank you, Jeff.
Make it, but we really appreciate it. And Tim, I'm glad that you shared everything, because the more you share, the more mystery that surrounds it to me.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
It's like peeling the layers of an onion. That goes on to infinity.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us.